This is the summary of the beginning of the Hosafos. Now, the nature of the Hosafos is that it's a lot of references to previous Maimar and other sort of shorthand comments. We spoke about the idea of salt, that salt is not something that's eaten on its own, but it brings out the flavor and everything else. And this is comparable to the study of Kabbalah, that it's not something that you can fully comprehend on its own, unlike Nigla, that a person can really grasp it. And yet, through the study of Kabbalah, we bring out the quality and the depth and the meaning that can be found within Nigla. So even though when the study of Nigla, there's a greater sense of satisfaction and comprehension, less so perhaps in the study of Pnimis HaTorah, because we can only know the facts and not necessarily the essential content. However, as the halacha that we are not allowed to bring a carbon, which is the transformation of our animalistic tendencies into the godliness, and the carbon must have salt to bring out the flavor of the meat. Similarly, we must engage in the study of Kabbalah, Pnimis HaTorah, to bring out the depth and character that is found within the study of Nigla, and transform it and make it that much more personalized. And this is why we are told to allocate a third of our time to the study of Mikra, which includes the study of Kabbalah and Pnimis HaTorah, to make it clear that, or to make it personalized when we study the Nigla of Torah, that we should be able to take in the message. And this is also the idea that the mincha carbon was made from wheat. The word wheat, chita, is a numerical value of 22, which represents the 22 letters of Torah, that we are able to transform them and elevate them. And this is similar to the story about how Elisha sweetened water by throwing something into it that was bitter. The bitter made the bitter sweet. And this is our objective, to transform Ishapcha. And this is why we find that melech, the word for salt, is the equal to 3 times the name of Hashem, which is a reference to the 3 times Hashem's name is mentioned in the Birchas Kohanim. And why we talk about the Birchas Kohanim, during the Birchas Kohanim, we talk about transforming dreams, because the word for dreams is chalom, is the same words as the words from, same letters as the word melech, and the same letters as the word for health, as Rashi explains, because our objective is that dreams, which are chaotic, should be, through salt, they should be spiced and cured to become practical and pragmatic. Why then is matzah made without salt? Because matzah is the level of iskafia. We first have to have the resistance, even though that's not as geschmack, doesn't have as much flavor. And then we can transform and we can turn that into ishapcha. And this is why sailors are called salties, the salty sea, malachim, with a ches, because they go into the boat. The boat is the way in which they navigate across the water, thus effectuating a transformation of the water into the dry land, because usually a person would sink in the water. Through the boat, they traverse the water. And this is the idea that when we do mitzvahs being the garments, we are able to be transported. We go into the sea of Chachma, and rather than drowning and overwhelming data and information that's irrelevant, we are able to coast across the sea. We also started talking about the initial process of creation. This is sort of a new idea, a new mimer in the midst of this daf, where we talked about the makam panoi, that this empty space. And we explained, of course, it's not completely empty. It still retains the residue of God's presence, but that Hashem sort of pulls to the side. And we use the analogy of a parent who stands to the side and lets the child venture out. And this is what allowed there to be identifiable characteristics of Hashem. And then we were very cautious to point out that we should not ever think that we daven to Kel or Chesed and so on. We should always remember that this is the atzmus of Hashem. It's that Hashem expresses himself in the different Kalim. So Hashem expresses himself through Chesed, Hashem expresses himself through Gevurah. And again, just like the king may give you a present with the right hand or a lesser present with the left hand, but it's still the king who gives you the present. It's not the right hand or the left hand. Similarly, we must always recall that it is God himself It is not any of the individual spheros or kalim. It is only the essence of Hashem himself.